I don't see Francis Ngannou saying, oh, I'm done with the UFC for this one fight unless he's ready to retire or go join Bellator, because I don't see Dana White not forcing him to sign with the UFC or allowing him to go fight Fury, make a ton of money, and then come back. That's not going to happen. If that fight happens, Dana White and the UFC is going to be involved, or Francis is no longer going to be a part of the UFC. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the DAZN Boxing Show. I go by the name of Ak.
And I'm Barack the Boxing Bully.
I'm excited to be here, ready to talk some boxing. We are going to talk some heavyweights today. It's time for the opening bell. We start our week off with some major headlines in the land of the Giants. First, we have to look at friend to the show, our guy, Anthony Joshua, changing trainers ahead of his likely rematch against Alexander Usyk. Joshua was at Expo 2020 in Dubai and spoke on his reasoning, saying, I'm a loyal character. I believe loyalty is important. I've been based in Sheffield and had a good chat with my coach and want to try some new things. I want to try a new environment. A lot of people spit that out after his loss against Ruiz, and obviously after his loss against Usyk. You and I both were in London, in Tottenham Stadium, and I heard people saying that as we were walking out of the arena. Now, I've always said, Barack, that I feel like AJ needs to add something to the team. Maybe not get rid of McCracken, but add somebody. How do you feel about this decision?
First of all, it's Tottenham. You know, get your British right. I don't know how it's Tottenham, but it is. I don't have any feelings about this. I think a fighter needs to do whatever he thinks he needs to do in order to re-energize himself, give him the confidence that he needs. And Anthony's one of those cerebral guys that everything has to make sense. Remember when he was in trouble against Andy Ruiz? He looked at his coach and was like, what do I do? Or why is he doing that? Like, he's asking specific questions in the corner. I've never seen a fighter do that before. He needs whatever he needs to be confident. And if a change of scenery is that, then so be it. We always got to go back to Cotto. Cotto, after getting destroyed by Antonio Margarito, he went to Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach, gave him a resurgence. Like he really gave him the confidence he needed to go to the middleweight division and beat Sergio Martinez and become champion. And I think if that's what Joshua thinks that he needs, then it's a good thing, and I can't say nothing bad about it.
Of course, it's a mental game outside of it physical. Mm-hmm. Look, this guy is so calculated. A few months back, he went on a tour to work with trainers for a day just to see who he gels with, who he feels comfortable with. Like, this guy is very specific, to your point, Barack. So, I just hope he finds somebody that he genuinely gels with, that he feels like he's learning from, and that it's reciprocated, where the trainer has the same type of energy, wants to get AJ at the top of his game and add new things. I know people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but Barack, I've watched fighters get better over the years. I've watched fighters add things to their repertoire and execute it in the ring, even after being champions. So I don't agree with that completely. And I think AJ, with his size and power, if you tweak a few things, he can be very dangerous against anybody, including Usyk. So I like to see him train with somebody else, even if it's not full time. But I'm curious as to who it is, Barack. Look, out of all of those trainers out there, who would you say, if you had a choice to pick for him, who you want to see him with?
I can't say, like I say anything. It's always up to the fighter. But if I was just to guess, it would be somebody like a Virgil Hunter, Derek James, Eddie Reynoso, somebody who, has had great fighters, the best fighters in the world, and that can give him the confidence that he needs. I mean, I'm think about it, man. When Eddie Hearn was on the show, he said that Joshua was going on a tour gathering information, you know, and that's the thing. He was probably picking the brains of every single trainer, thinking, you know, whoever can make sense to me why I lost and what changes I need to make, that's who I'm going with. I'm only going to see these top guys. I think anybody can help him. And I think it's like this, like whenever you get bored of something, you need a change of scenery. Whenever you feel like you've hit a ceiling, you need a change of scenery. And no matter what, confidence-wise, I think any trainer, anything new would do good for him. You know, like when you're tired of going to the gym, you know what some people do? They go and buy new workout clothes, or they go to a new gym, you know, and that new environment sparks a different kind of motivation in a person. So it really doesn't matter who he goes to see as long as he feels confident.
Well, if I had to throw my 2 cents in there, I would say Eddie Reynoso, because of the pedigree, because of the fighters around him, regardless of the language barrier. I think boxing, it's something that, you know, we've seen trainers train guys that don't speak the same language, and it turned out to have great results. So I'm not going to use the language
that's
barrier.
True. That's true. And you know what? You see what Derek James did with Charlo, what he did with Jamel Charlo? He turned him into a boxer to a puncher, somebody who sits down on his punches. So imagine what he could probably do with Anthony Joshua. Eddie Reynoso as well.
Yeah, I think all of those guys are great. Speaking of heavyweights and Eddie Hearn, staying in the UK and staying in the heavyweight division, the purse bids for the potential Tyson Fury and Dillon White bout are delayed. This because Eddie Hearn and Team White are appealing the WBC's ruling of an 80-20 split in favor of Tyson Fury. Speaking of TalkSport, Eddie had the following to say when it comes to reasoning for the appeal. We don't agree with that, and we don't feel that we should accept that, so that will be appealed against via WBC, via arbitration, or via a legal process. Until that ruling is made, we'll have to see where we're at. If that's the final ruling and we have to go to a purse bid for that fight, we will bid what we believe the value of the fight is. Now, Barack, I remember saying that Dillon White just wants to fight AJ, and he's not going to care about the split. Now, I mean, that's a stretch. I know a guy cares about what he's going to get paid, but, you know, being with all the drama that he's dealt with the WBC for many years, and being a number one contender for Deontay Wilder, or the mandatory. I would think that he just wants to get the big fights and deal with that stuff after. It's going to be a big chunk of money, even if it's 20%. But after thinking about it, I do feel that there should be an appeal. I stand by Eddie and those guys to get Dillon White a bigger portion of that purse.
You got to have some.
If it goes to purse bid.
Right. You got to have some kind of standard that you go by, and you can't let somebody rob you of your worth. Now, yes, we can say maybe the champion deserves a 60-40 split. Of course, we could throw any number out there, but 80-20? Yes, you said that he would just be wanting to fight, and I know, and I said, yeah, no, I think he's going to feel disrespected by that offer. 80-20, no, especially when you deserve the shot. This is not some kind of favor. This is somebody who actually put in the work, fought the fighters he needed to fight, got that rematch with Povetkin to regain that mandatory spot in a spectacular fashion. You don't see fighters get knocked out and then come back with confidence like it was just a mistake. Yeah, I'm just gonna knock him out a round earlier. That usually doesn't even happen. So when a guy deserves his spot, naturally so, he's gonna stand on his standard and say, yo, 80-20 is not a good split. But then now you see Hearn saying, well, we're gonna bid what we feel is worth, and I'm scared for that, because how much is this fight worth? It's probably worth a lot if it's in the UK. You know, it should generate a lot of money, and I just hope, even if the split is 70-30 or 65-35, that means enough money for Dillon White.
Yeah, I mean, but if Eddie says we're going to bid, if it goes to purse bid and they bid, and, Matchroom, DAZN bids for this fight,
yeah,
it doesn't mean that the ruling is going to change and that he's not only going to get 20%. So are they going to bid a lot higher than the market value of the fight just so Dillon White can get paid more money?
Yeah, that's a good point. But I
at
thought
20%.
I thought purse bids. I thought he couldn't get lower than 35 in a purse bid, and that's the problem. So if it's still 80-20, damn, you would have to bid higher. That sucks. Yeah, it is what it is. I think at the end of the day, he's gonna take that fight. If that's the last resort, he's going to take that fight.
So regardless of the splits, if it ends up being 20%, you feel like Dillon White would accept that and that fight would take place?
I feel like if that's your only option, yeah, 100%. You know, I was just reading what Ugas said on Twitter. He was like, you know, when he came back after 2.5 year hiatus, he was 15-3, and he fought guys like Brian and Jamal James and he fought both of those guys, Perella and James, for $10,000 each fight. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, you know? And I think that's what Dillon White is going to tell himself. This is my opportunity to become the lineal heavyweight champ of the world. At the end of the day, that's what you're doing this for. Yes, you want the money, but you know if you have confidence in yourself and if you win this fight, then your next paycheck is probably more than what you expected. You know, your next paycheck is that big paycheck that you want. And if anything, if you ask a fighter, what would you want? To have been a champion or have just made money? I don't know. Maybe some fighters will say, I would have loved to have been a champion.
I agree with you, Barack. I just want to see the fight. And for more on these stories, just go over to DAZN News.
DAZN is coming in hot. You know, they just dropped their major bombshell on Friday and then unveiled their first quarter schedule for 2022. It all starts on February 5th with Jesse Vargas versus Liam Smith. You've seen the rundown. Which fight excites you the most?
Well, Barack, it's like when we go to a restaurant that has a lot of great options. You know, sometimes I'm stuck on the menu there and I don't know what to pick. So I like all of these fights. Look, I'm dying to see Daniel Jacobs back. I want to see what he does against Ryder. Also, who is not excited for Chocolatito Estrada 3? I would say if I had to pick one, that would be it, because that's a guaranteed barn burner. We know what we're going to get. The fans know what they're going to get when they tune into that fight, and I'm ready for an exciting, action-packed fight. I think that's it right there. But look, I like the Jesse Vargas fight, him coming back after a long layoff. Liam Smith coming back from a recent knockout, stoppage victory. So both guys have a lot to gain, and Jesse's, political aspirations. I want to know if they're going to interfere with this training camp. I doubt it. I said it before. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the 8-week or 10-week training camp. So I'm ready to just watch some boxing in 2022.
100%. And I love when networks and promotional companies give their schedule so we have something to look forward to. I like to base my life and my vacations and all of these things around boxing, around going to these fights and watching these fights. This seems like it's going to be a great year. Speaking of upcoming fights, Top-Rank President Todd DeBuff tells the Sports Business Journal that a bout between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou would do really well, of course, and that Top Rank and the UFC being tied to ESPN could help negotiations. That makes a lot of sense to me, Ak. They both on ESPN. This might be the crossover fight that Dana White allows. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know what to think when it comes to Dana White. I know that Francis Ngannou isn't the happiest camper at the UFC. You know, that's been voiced. A lot of people know it. Now, he is a big attraction, a major attraction. Maybe she'd be a bigger star than he is. But him competing with Tyson Fury, we all know how that will play out in a boxing ring. But this is prize fighting, so we know it'll be a big money fight. I think ESPN will put a lot of energy behind this promotion. I think Ngannou talks a good game, and he's a puncher. Look, you never know. I think that notion of him being able to knock anybody out with one punch is what will bring those UFC fans over, saying he can beat Fury, he can knock Fury out. We all know that's not going to happen. At least I don't, that's my opinion. But I think it'll be a big fight. I think it's likely, Barack, being, and I would say Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor kind of kicked that off in the right way. I'm talking about major fights. I know we've had crossover fights before, especially in the cage, but that fight kicked it off, and I think that people might be ready for another big one.
Yeah, well, Francis, I believe his contract is going to be up after this Gane fight. Let's say he wins. If he re-signs, then we're going to need Dana White to sign off on this fight. But let's say he loses, that might take away the steam from this particular fight. But either way, if he's finished with the UFC, if he decides on his own to try and fight Tyson Fury, yes, it would be a big fight. But at the end of the day, it's still like that bank robbery that Floyd talks about. When you come from a different sport, it's kind of hard to deal with guys that have been doing this all his life, especially somebody like Tyson Fury that grew up in boxing. But I do feel like the way to sell this is that the heavyweight division is different. Hakeem Rahman and Lennox Lewis, one punch, a lesser skilled guy, but he's still a boxer, gets in there, overhand right, boom, it can end the fight. And I think what matters the most are the rules. I know Tyson threw that out there. Hey, boxing rules, your gloves, 4-ounce gloves. That probably won't be allowed or sanctioned in boxing. Boxing has a different ethic, but imagine that would definitely sell.
It would sell, but like you said, if that fight happens in Vegas, wherever it happens, the commission is not going to allow these heavyweights to fight with 4-ounce gloves. So that won't happen. It would be 10-ounce gloves, the way heavyweights normally fight in a boxing ring. But I don't see Francis Ngannou saying, "Oh, I'm done with the UFC for this one fight," unless he's ready to retire or go join Bellator, because I don't see Dana White not forcing him to sign with the UFC or allowing him to go fight Fury, make a ton of money, and then come back. That's not going to happen. If that fight happens, Dana White and the UFC is going to be involved, or Francis is no longer going to be a part of the UFC.
Yeah, well, check it out though. Yes, Francis says that his first love, just like Dana White says this too, that his first love was boxing. He always wanted to be a boxer, yes. But guess what? The reason why these guys want to come over is not for the love of the sport. The reason why these guys want to come over because they seen Conor McGregor make $85 million in one fight. Therefore, and after that, his motivation was in question. So he doesn't care. I don't think he cares. If he's able to come over here and make a $40, $50 million paycheck, I think he'll be set for the rest of his life. He probably won't even want to fight in the UFC anymore, or won't need to, at least, for that matter.
Look, Barack, Francis has voiced his opinion about a new contract, and if he re-signs with the UFC, that there has to be a clause in that contract stating that he can fight in a boxing match. So maybe he's already premeditating this and is going to make that fight possible against Tyson Fury. Who knows? I'll be tuned in for that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. He knows where his bread and butter really lies, and that's with the UFC. He knows where, he's one of the best fighters of all time, in MMA. I think that makes sense. I just think that, where do we put him? Is this a non-title fight? Obviously, with Fury, we're not putting the belt up for some guy that just came from the UFC. It's just a spectacle. It's just a crossover fight. But he's been talking about just fighting. I mean, now I know his name is linked to Fury, but he's been mentioning Wilder and Joshua and guys like that. What if he comes over to the boxing world and fights Wilder first? Why not that fight?
I like any of those fights, man. I mean, interesting. I think it's going to be a uphill battle and a tough task for him to beat any of those guys. But look, man, it would be exciting to watch. Before we get out of here, I got to get your take on David Benavidez telling the Calling Russ Amber podcast that Canelo apparently needs to vacate his super middleweight titles if he doesn't fight him. That's tough talk right there. I mean, Canelo is a top dog. Does David Benavidez have any weight here?
I think he does, and that's just because the people, and that's the power of the people. The people want to see this fight. The people have been putting David Benavidez's name in the pot, even way back when David was saying, I need to earn my shot. I need to fight these other guys. He never really got that fight that would earn that shot, guys call out or whatever. But he was about to fight Uzcategui, but that's not really an audition for Canelo. But either way, the people want to see him fight. So he has the right to say something like that. Now, I don't know how Canelo's going to respond. Canelo already conquered that division. Maybe he moves up to 175. Maybe he moves up to fight Makabu at 190 pounds in the cruiserweight division. I don't know. Either way, people want to see Canelo. And I'm curious how people are going to react if Canelo doesn't fight at 168 and doesn't fight David Benavidez, who doesn't have a belt, but he just has that name that people think that because he's fast, because he's big, because he's tall, because he's so offensive, should give Canelo problems.
And why is that? It's because people want to see Canelo lose, or they want to see him in trouble. Now, I do agree that David Benavidez is a threat. He's a very good fighter, very young, strong, great hand speed. But at the end of the day, Barack, the fight has to make sense. Canelo can't fight fighters just for the people if his agenda is to conquer divisions and win world titles. He's not in a position where I'm going to win a world title and sit here for 2 years and reign and defend my title against the best fighters in the division. That doesn't make sense for a guy like Canelo Alvarez, who has the opportunity to even go fight at cruiserweight and win a world title, or go become undisputed at light heavyweight. I'm not saying that's going to be an easy task and he's going to execute that, but he has the path and the opportunity to do that. So if you weigh out all of your options, why will it make sense to fight David Benavidez when you've already conquered the division at 168? You want to sit there and defend it against a guy who's not champion, who's not the biggest name in the sport, so it won't be a big money fight, opposed to conquering those other divisions and having those opportunities to win more money. Why would that make sense? To please the people?
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes the belts are not the only answer. And a lot of times it's really about the people. What do most fighters say? Well, who do you guys want to see me fight? Even Canelo said that before. Who do you guys want to see me? If they want to see that fight, like he even said it with Triple G, if the people want to see that, I don't really want that fight, but if the people want to see that fight, then fine, I'll do it. And that's the thing. It's about the people, pleasing the people. It doesn't always have to take a belt. David Benavidez has been somebody who, you're in that weight class. I can understand Jamal Charlo when you say, you know what, I don't want to fight 160. All right, well, Jamal got to move up to 168. But David Benavidez already there already. He was already a dominant force. He's never really lost. He's only been his only demise was himself losing a title on the scale or whatever, or banned substance. But I'm going to tell you, if the people are saying this is who you should fight next, if you win, you could finally get the credit that you deserve. But there's always going to be haters who won't give you the credit.
I don't think you're ever going to completely get the credit you deserve. That's going to be an ongoing battle, Barack. And listen, from a fan's perspective, yes, I would love to see David Benavidez fight Canelo Alvarez. Now, if I'm on Canelo's management team, training team, his team, making the right decisions for him, I would not take this fight because I don't think it makes sense for Canelo Alvarez. And that's my take
listen,
on it.
if the people are clamoring for it, let me tell you, it depends on, all right, Chavez. Let's go back to Chavez Sr., right? When he beat Meldrick Taylor. Haters could have said, oh man, Richard Steele, look what he did. You didn't deserve that fight. But you know what happened? Speak to Sergio Mora and the rest of the Mexican community. They fell in love with Chavez after that fight. Why? Because he was the guy to beat and you pulled it off. They don't care how it happened. You know, I think I was about to call Canelo Chavez. I think Canelo needs this fight. I think that most of the people clamoring are saying, oh, Canelo's ducking Benavidez. We know he's not ducking Benavidez. He's fighting the most dangerous guys. He fought Callum Smith when everybody was saying that he's the top, when he was legitimately the top guy in the division. You know, so if Benavidez would have held on to his belt, then Benavidez would have been one of the guys he fought. You know, so if the people are clamoring for Benavidez, I think you're going to get a lot of credit if you fight him and if you win.
We'll see. That's our show for today, folks. Peace and love. Stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow.